Hello and welcome everybody to another BidX interview. And today our guest is Emma from Marketing by Emma. And I'm really happy to have you here on our interview series today. And we're going to talk about your topic, which is going to talk about listings. We talk about the basics of how to know you need to optimize your listing and what it really takes to create a winning listing. So Emma, I'd like to hand over to you to give you the possibility to introduce yourself and tell a little bit more about your background.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Emma Schermer Tamir. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Marketing by Emma, which my husband Erez and I started in 2016. And what we specialize in is really helping e-commerce businesses think about who they are so that they can connect with their dream customers. It's such a crowded marketplace to be trying to sell on Amazon. And so figuring out the branding piece is such a valuable tool that businesses have to be able to differentiate themselves and drive more sales. So that's what we really specialize in. We've had the pleasure of working with over 1,000 businesses from all over the world, and I'm really excited to share some of the lessons that we've learned and techniques that we use to help businesses succeed, whether they're selling on Amazon or on any other online platform.
That sounds very good. And where do your clients come from? Is it mostly US or is it all over the globe?
We work with people from all over the world. So our specialty is helping people sell in the US marketplace. And so we do have many clients that are based here in the US, but because we have that deep knowledge of US consumers, we also work with people that are in every corner of the globe. The only continent we have yet to have any clients from is Antarctica, but something tells me people there are focused on more scientific things than on selling on e-commerce. So
That's probably true. That's probably true. And you talk about helping brands to really find the sellers they serve and helped with a brand identification, I would say. So your job is much more than creating a listing. It's rather finding that perfect customer and telling a story around the brand, I guess.
yes, exactly. It's So on its most basic level, listing optimization requires a knowledge of SEO and of how to kind of play Amazon's game. And while just doing those two things 5, 6 years ago would have been enough to be successful, because of the way that Amazon has evolved and the increase of other sellers, and even the way that the American consumer has matured, there's a lot more that sellers need to be doing in order to be successful and to stay ahead in 2022 and moving into 2023 and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And then what do you think are like still one of the biggest mistakes that sellers make when they create the listings?
Yeah, I think it kind of connects to what we've just been talking about, which is overall, I think a lot of sellers are naturally more analytical minded. And so the keywords and sort of that space is the more comfortable place for them to spend their time. And so they might kind of tell themselves the story that that's the only thing that really matters, that buyers aren't reading anything. They don't really care about what you write. It's all about just having the keywords in there. And if you do that, then you're going to win. And that's just not the case anymore. In fact, we have a lot of clients that come to us that have been selling on Amazon for a long time. They're sort of the OGs of Amazon sellers. And they're like, I don't know what to do. I was number one for so many years. And now I have all of these new competitors coming in, and they're taking away my market share, and like I'm trying what I can, but they're really posing a threat, and this is a big piece of that. And so I would say that's one of the top mistakes, is just only focusing on the SEO side and not also giving attention to the branding piece and the copywriting piece and figuring out what you can do to use text and imagery to differentiate your brand. Another sort of connected to that is really being clear about what makes you different. Because one of the things that's very challenging to do on Amazon for a customer is to compare products to other products. And so if you go onto Amazon as a customer and you're looking at the search results page and you start clicking into listings, this one looks the same. This one looks the same. Oh, and the next one looks the same. And then what are you to do as a customer when all of your options look identical? Then most likely you're going to be choosing either the thing that's the cheapest or either the thing that has the most reviews. And so if you're wanting to compete beyond that, you really need to help customers understand what makes you special. And to do that, you need to be clear about who your product is for and who your product isn't for, and to really make sure that you're communicating all of those details very clearly throughout your listing from top to bottom so that you are giving customers something that they can use to make a decision on.
So then you talk about this product looks the same, this looks the same. So what does your service include? Is it like only the text, or do you also work on improving the images, improving the videos, improving the A+ content, and so on?
Yeah, so we are a copywriting focused firm. We're highly specialized, and the writing itself is what we actually do. However, there are some pieces that are very much like team players in that. And so while we don't actually provide design or photography services, we do provide a creative brief that has a detailed description of exactly what images to create. If you're creating A+ content, then the modules to be using and all of those things, so that we're making sure that the text and the imagery is working together. And then whatever designer or photographer you're working with, they know exactly what they need to do. It makes it very easy for them. We have quite a few photographers and designers that just tell us, we absolutely love being able to work on your projects because you just make things so much easier for us. We're not kind of, left trying to figure out what the writer intended. And so we found that makes it a really great experience through and through. And then the client also doesn't have to be the one that's project managing all of that, because they can just send that brief directly to the photographer or designer and sit back and let the expert do the work.
Where do you think your passion for copywriting came from?
That's an awesome question. So my discovery of copywriting was a little bit unintentional and unexpected. So I've always been a strong writer since I was a child. It was always something that I really enjoyed on a creative aspect. And when I started taking jobs, even when I was in college, I would get people noticing that I was a good writer. And so then even if I was a server or doing other types of roles, they'd also be like, "Hey, would you want to help with the blog or putting together newsletters?" And so I kind of just started to fall unintentionally into the world of marketing. And so as I started to learn more and more, then I also started to work with, take on more marketing types of roles, working with mentors that, had a lot of experience in the marketing and copywriting world. And so from them, I started to discover that there's so much that goes into copywriting besides just word selection. It's really an opportunity to feed my curiosity about why humans do what they do, so it involves psychology, it involves sociology, it involves cultural understanding, it involves so many different things, and then combining that all together through your word selection to be able to achieve a desired outcome. So it was a slow kind of learning process that eventually drew me to the copywriting world.
That is then probably also what makes the difference between like a good listing and a great listing that really stands out and that really helps your clients then to compete in such a competing environment, I would say. Yeah.
Yes,
So
definitely.
yeah, and I think it's great that like you have the possibility to do work or to do something for a living or to generate money with something that you are passionate about. And I think this is like always the key to get these great results at the end and to have happy clients.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so when a client is approaching you, what how do you figure out that the listing needs attention, or what are like the key aspects where you immediately realize, okay, we need to work on this listing, we need to work on that listing? What are the signs that something isn't very well optimized at the moment?
Yeah, there can be a lot of different indications and data points that can suggest that there is room to gain improvement through optimization. So, some of that is something that a seller can easily look at. Things like how your conversion rate is comparing to your competitors, both on a keyword specific level through like the search performance dashboard, or just more generally speaking, what your conversion rate is in relationship to your competitors more just as a whole. So that's kind of the most obvious thing. But there's also some other areas that can be good indicators that some optimization might be helpful. And that includes if your return rate is higher than normal, or you're getting more negative reviews than what you'd like. I mean, obviously, even one negative review is more than what anybody would like. And a lot of times those, but in both cases, come back to there's something about the listing that makes it so it's not doing its job properly. Because if you're not clearly explaining the product, if you're not helping people decide whether this is going to be a good fit for their needs, then you're opening yourself up to somebody buying something and it not being a good fit for them. And so the listing is a great tool for minimizing how many returns you're having and how many negative reviews you're having. So those are some of the data points that you can look at. But then you also have the ability to just look from a marketing perspective at the listing to see how it's put together. And so those are like, we offer a free listing analysis. So anybody, if they would like for us to take a look at their listing, you can go to our website and fill out a simple form, and my team will take a look at the listing and provide some of their observations. And so a lot of times, even just through some small adjustments there, because you can even take that that advice that we give and do it yourself if you'd prefer, can achieve positive outcomes. So things like, maybe you're using A plus, but you uploaded it 3 years ago, and so it's a little outdated looking and not as current as it should be, or really long bullets. Back when we first started, the style was to max out your character count for your bullets, and that's not effective in today's world. So all of those little things like that can start to make a pretty significant impact as well.
Got it. And like people nowadays, we see it in our system. Cost per clicks are rising tremendously, and people are spending thousands of dollars into the listings. And then it's like weird if they save a couple of dollars by not investing in the copywriting, in the images, in the videos that they can afterwards use, which not only help them to increase the conversion rate, but also the return rate and sell just more over there. So that is really
100%.
really, really helpful. So what do you do if the product quality sucks? Like if for instance the product was perhaps good in the past, but then maybe the quality changed or the competitor quality increased, and then you get the negative reviews. What would you recommend if you have problems with the product quality?
Yeah, I would recommend being really honest. Not everybody wants the best quality everything. So if maybe your quality isn't as good, but there are some still circumstances that your product could be ideal for, then be honest about that. There's really no reason to try to lie about that your product is great for a situation where it's not. If you do that, a customer is going to find out. When is a customer going to be more upset? When they're looking at a listing and realize, okay, that's not the right product for me, or when they think that the product is great, they buy the product, they're counting on it to do a thing, and then it doesn't do that thing. That's just a sale that you don't want, because all that it's doing is actually opening you up to a negative review potential and creating more time and cost for you, because now you have a return that you have to deal with. And so if there are things about your product that some people might be off put by, I'm very much a proponent of being very honest about that, and then allowing the customer to make that choice. And beyond that, perhaps those are some considerations that you should take into future versions of this product. And if you know that it has these kind of weaknesses to it, is it worth just kind of like keeping things as is, or is it maybe worth updating your product to address those things? Or if not, then being honest about that and saying, maybe something is really slim, and so because it's slim, it's also not as durable. But for some people, they're willing to sacrifice some durability to have the slim profile. And so by being honest about that, then you're giving that to a customer to be able to weigh what's most important to them and then decide accordingly. So it depends on the situation and the circumstances, but whenever we have clients coming to us that have a lot of those negative reviews, we always encourage them to address those head on. And one other point that is I just found really fascinating. I was on a panel a few years ago at Prosper, and there was somebody on the panel from a company that sells pajamas. And they launched this new pajama set, and all of the feedback that was coming back was really negative and saying, oh my gosh, these pajamas are so thin, they're see-through. And so they could have just said, okay, this product is a flop, we'll clear out what we have and we'll stop selling it. But what they actually did was they took that feedback and they repositioned the product. And they said, these are sheer pajamas. They're lightweight. They're great for people that sleep hot or, want something that's a little bit sheerer for the summertime and whatnot. And so something that was originally being seen as a downside, they actually reposition the product to make that a central feature of it, and we're able to make it so that it's now a very successful SKU in their line. So sometimes you have that opportunity as well. It just really depends.
Yeah, and then speak it out loud, and then try to sell it as a benefit, or try to position it at that price point, because probably like if the quality is not as high as a competitor one, then probably also your price will be better than the competitor's price. And then by speaking it out loud, kind of, then you make sure that also again you are able to increase in conversions and reduce the return rate afterwards. You talked about your listing analyzer that you provide. Like, what are the top tips that you provide during that analysis?
Yeah, so it really we look at every listing as just with fresh eyes. So we try to see what are um the most significant issues here that would have the biggest impact if they were addressed. So a lot of times things that we'll see even include, like, what I've found is one of the most underutilized pieces of Amazon real estate are the imagery. And so even when people have good images, the way that they're utilizing text and images is really ineffective, either because they're just not using it at all, or because they're using it in a less effective way. So things like just I almost call it like the Instagramification of your product images. And so thinking about if somebody is clicking through your photos, how can you both communicate something of value to them about your product, but do it in a way that's going to appeal to them and make them more eager to want to purchase your product, so that every image in some ways is like an ad, like a magazine ad, that is having that very benefit forward language that's appealing to customers on an emotional level, but also giving them that the basic details that they might need about your product. So a mistake would be, maybe you have an image and it shows the dimensions of your product and that's it. Well, that's not bad. Some people really want to know what the dimensions of the product are, but what else can you tell them about the size of this product that will help them, help turn this image into something more than just, here are the dimensions. Why are those dimensions specific, or how does size relate to the better functionality of this product, or whatever it might be. And so really thinking in those ways about how you can make your photos more effective sales tools. I would say that's probably one of the biggest areas for wins. That's one of the most consistent things that we see across the board.
And that is also where you help with copywriting on images to tell the story, like in an
Exactly.
Instagrammable way, I'd say, because like you see that the 5 attributes are like at the very bottom on a mobile device, and so you have the description at top, but at the very top you have all the images, so you got the chance and the possibility to tell the most over there.
Yeah. Well, and the
And
one caution with that is that sometimes people take this to the extreme, right? And so some people have no text or very minimal text, and that's not great. But on the other side, you can definitely put too much text on your images. So really thinking, as you mentioned, mobile, so many people are shopping on mobile. So you want to make sure that when they're looking at an image on their phone, the text is clear, it's easy to read, it's not too overwhelming, so more than a sentence or two, or like a few small bullet points. Beyond that, it starts to be too cluttered, too much, too overwhelming, and you might be trying to bite off more than what you should be with one image.
so it's really finding about the right balance to provide enough valuable information, comparison, whatsoever, but not to overload.
Exactly.
Okay, then you talked about changes of the bullet points, changes of the A plus content, and so on. So, what future changes are you going to expect? And also, like when you now look into Q4 and the upcoming year 2023, what are the biggest challenges that customers will and that Amazon sellers in that case will face in their listing, and what are the biggest changes that you see?
So we've seen some trends with Amazon over the last couple of years, which are just um, going to continue, from my personal opinion, which is that Amazon has recognized that branding isn't just something nice to have. It really is something that they want sellers to be doing. And so the way that they're encouraging that is through having different privileges that you get when you invest in this branding piece. So like what we just saw pretty recently was them taking premium A plus content, which previously was an invite only program and very expensive. And now, at least in a testing case, we don't know if this is going to be long lasting or not. They're making it so that if you've gotten, I believe it's, my brain is a little bit foggy at the moment. Somewhere around, don't quote me on this, but a certain amount of pieces of A plus content approved in the last year makes you eligible now for premium A plus content. And so that gives you more modules to use for your A plus content, as well as more dynamic module selections.
Yeah.
So things that are interactive, it's wider screen. So that's just one of those things. We've seen Amazon posts over the last few years. Amazon storefronts have gotten more robust. And so it's all part of this move that Amazon is identifying, that if they're going to stay competitive, they cannot just be a marketplace of a bunch of, cheap products that nobody knows what the brand is or where they're from. And so that is the single most important thing, I think, that businesses should be considering as they're putting together their strategies moving forward. And the other reason why that's so important is because, as you mentioned, PPC costs are getting more expensive. We still have supply chain issues that we're dealing with. We're potentially, entering a recessionary period. The economy is very strange. There's conflict in different parts of the world. Like, there's a lot going on right now. And so because of that, if you can take the time to invest in some of these pieces, you are going to be able to make more with what you have. So you can make your PPC more effective and efficient. You can, build that brand loyalty so that you are going to be encouraging repeat customers. You can potentially think about expanding beyond Amazon as well if you haven't already done that. And so you'll have more options available to you if you figure out this piece.
Yeah, totally agree. The branding becomes more and more important on Amazon. And again, also this is a huge part to differentiate yourself from the other marketplace sellers. And there are a bunch of them in the meantime on the Amazon marketplace. Emma,
There are a bunch of them. And it's rare that you're selling something that is totally unique. So if the product itself is more or less the same as your competitors, then branding is actually the one thing that you have to differentiate yourself. So it's not just sort of, putting some makeup on your listing and sort of dressing it up. It is very essential to a long-term strategy for achieving success. So
yeah, we see that in the world. I mean, comparing different beer brands, comparing different car manufacturers. They all build cars, for instance, but they have different branding strategies, different pricing structures, and so on. But in the end, they're all selling cars, and so we have many products that are alike, but with a brand story behind it, you can reach a
yes.
different audience, and you are able to sell your product. So we highly recommend then to start with an audit from you. I think everybody who's listening can start with that and get some feedback. And then also, I think you have over 85 stars review, only 5-star reviews on Google, which is like amazing. And also on all the conference and period, you had like really great feedback about the services you provide. So we highly recommend working with you. And that's it from my side. Do you have anything you would like to add for today?
I don't think so. Thank you so much for having me. And we're always available for questions and would love to help in any way that we can.
Sounds good. Stay safe. Thank you very much for listening. Bye bye.
Bye.